Hi there. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty, tonight we're doing a weekly update live stream for Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Got a couple of stories I want to cover real quickly, and I also have a special guest who's going to be joining us in the studio tonight. I didn't put out a name as to who it was. However, you've heard about this person a couple of times. To give you a little bit of background, I've known her and her husband for quite some time, probably going back, 10, 12 years or more. And, well, I actually knew her husband long before he met her, but that's beside the point. And, we all go out to dinner periodically to various restaurants. And, well, one day over a rather large plate of sushi, we got into a discussion. And I told him, I said, I'm not so worried so much about you, but, she works downtown and frequently ends up having to come home, after hours, 7, 8 o'clock at night, depending on what she's doing and what has to get done at the office. And, with things getting a little bit crazier in this world, has she ever thought about getting her concealed carry card? And, we got to talking about it. And quite frankly, again, like I said, even if the boogeyman was to jump out of the woods and grab him and try to drag him off or something, he'd whine so much they'd throw him back. But she, on the other hand, is, the nicer, more salvageable, more worthwhile of the couple. And so I was trying to sort of do what I could to keep her a little bit safer on the big picture. So we get into this discussion, and she sort of hemmed and hawed and thought about it, but not really, but whatever. And I'm like, no, seriously, I'll take you out to the range anytime. I'll teach you whatever I can. So we talk about it, and she wasn't totally against it. And meanwhile, every time I mention gun, he sits over there and whines or shakes or like pees himself a little. I don't know. But anyway, so, a couple of days later, I start texting her and call her and say, look, I was serious. You need to be able to take care of yourself. It's that simple. Kind of blunt, but whatever. Well, long story short, she ends up finally deciding to take me up on it. And so we set up a day that we're going to go to the range. And I told her, I said, if you want, we can meet here at the house. They've come down to the house many times. They come down sometimes to watch football. Well, she comes down to watch football. He just sits there and whines that she spends too much time watching football, and then he goes in the other room and does something. I don't know what. But anyway. So I told her, I said, come on. You can come down here to the house. You can meet at my office, whatever you want to do. We'll go over the basics, then we'll go out to the range. So finally she says, I'll come down. We pick a weekend to do it. And then she asked me this other question. And this question truly personifies the individual we're talking about. She said, can I bring my mommy? I said, sure, bring your mommy, whatever. And so she and mommy come down to the house, and we go over the basics of, the 4 rules and loading and chambering and how a semi-auto works and what a magazine is versus, a clip or things like that. And then after we're done with this and we've done a safety briefing, we go out to an outdoor range. And mommy brought actually a rifle with her that she had inherited some time back. And so she wanted to shoot that, and I looked it over, and it looked in good repair, no damage, no major rust issues or anything else. I was like, well, seems to be functional. More power to you. And I brought some handguns out for them to try out and a couple of other things. And we had a lovely day on the range. And this was pretty much her, I will say, formal entry into the 2A community. And I think at some point, I know, mommy has been very enthusiastic since then, and she has as well, and made several trips to the range subsequently. But I wanted, at least from her perspective, her to be able to share what it was like for her getting into the whole 2A thing, getting into the whole, firearm community. I know what it is for me to walk into the range. I know what I see, what I experience, but I wanted to bring her on tonight because, again, you've heard about her a couple of times. If you haven't, she is the living personification of Minnie Mouse. I've said that, and I will continue to maintain that until the day I die. But, from that standpoint, I wanted her to talk about her feelings as far as, first trip to the range. So, hey, Mel, welcome into the gun club for what it's worth.
Thank you.
I like you put up Minnie on there. It's pretty accurate.
Well, that's what you've always called me, so.
Right. Well, and you have to admit, there is, okay, I walk into y'all's house and there's a big Disney sign directly in front of me. No. Okay, the Disney Plus, yes. But
Oh, you're talking about, the thing on the wall in there. It's one of
yeah,
those, like, we let it go. We do Disney, the whole
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. Now, I will say, in y'all's defense, that was back before Disney tried to cut the kids' nuts off and trans everybody. But
Well,
anyway.
Yeah, we've been Disney people for a very long time, so it does
They're
go back to
they're old
before
school Disney
they went a
people,
little
so we don't
crazy.
have to hate them for that one. And part of it is also, she's married to a libtard. What are you going to say? I'll call him. In fact, I know at one point, what was it you said that if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, what were you going to do?
I'm coming to your house.
Okay. And I said that you're welcome, but
because you've got the whole armory there, like.
Right. You're welcome to come, but what about him? Well, he can come, but we're going to have to talk to him at the door, and I might just have a red hat to make him put on at the door. And if he doesn't want to do it, well, that's fine. He's on his own. Admit I'm right, or, well, fend for thyself. But, which, I mean, I have to say, he's not a bad human being. He's just an idiot. And he'll agree with me, and you'll agree with me. You say he's your idiot.
He is my idiot.
Yes. She fed him and he followed her home, but that's beside the point. Anyway. So, what was it like for you? I mean, I've sort of gone through the background and the story of it, but for you sitting here, I mean, because you've known me forever, it wasn't like you had to be really scared of this maniac with a gun saying, come on, let's go shoot something. Let's go shoot something.
No, it was, well, I mean, you pretty much covered sort of the background. I had actually gone, it's been probably 15 years or so ago now. I had been to an outdoor range one time with a group of friends. There wasn't any kind of like education involved. It was just like, hey, let's go shooting. And I just kind of went along, just to hang out. And I did have one friend of mine sort of pull me aside and say, here's my pistol. Go shoot it. Like, you need to know how to do this. But like I said, very, very little education. It was just kind of like, here it is, pull the trigger, point it that way.
Well, that's always one of the big ones. What direction you point is always good.
Well, yeah. And then after that, one of the guys had a semi-automatic shotgun that we did skeet shooting. I probably did it once. I remember it hurt my shoulder. But before you and I went that first time, that was the only time I'd ever shot a gun. I come from a family on my mom's side. My grandfather actually collected like antique guns. The one that he gave to her before he passed. I'm not sure if that's the one that belonged to his father or not, but we've actually got, I do family history, ancestry stuff, and I've got in my collection a picture of my my great grandfather as a 5-year-old boy with his brother holding. It might be the rifle that my mom has. I don't know. but a gun. So, you know, I come from that kind of a family background. I had just never really done it myself. So, when you offered, I knew that my mom had this rifle that she had recently inherited, and had some ammo for it, and wanted to kind of take it for a ride. And so, like you said, we came down to your house and had a little bit of a safety lesson before going out there, and then we went to the outdoor range and shot some guns. Shot in one of your ARs. She of course
that
shot
was
the rifle, and then we did some stuff with some pistols.
that was the fun part, because I mean, your mom, the rifle was, it's an older 45 Henry lever action rifle, which is, you know, nice gun and everything, but a little bit much, you know, at that point.
A little much
You
to
know,
handle for my little like 5'2" mother
yeah, which I mean,
who has
nice,
arthritis in her hands. Yeah.
yeah, nice gun and everything, but you know, after a couple times, she's like, okay, now I can say I fired it. That's done. And you can
Yeah.
always tell, as an instructor, you can always tell when it's like, okay, you want me loaded up some more? No, I fired it. That's okay. Okay, that clearly was not fun. We did not enjoy that. As
Yeah.
opposed to, like Mel mentioned, she's fired a couple of my ARs, and now it's like, you want another magazine? Well, yeah. What are you waiting for? You know.
Yeah, I think she enjoyed the AR.
You both did, yeah.
And we did.
And
like
that
I
was
said,
always
my little itty bitty mama, you know, she could. It wasn't beyond the scope of her to be able to handle it. You know.
right. And that's one of the things where I get such a laugh, because now I sort of do that when I'm, you know, taking someone out. Once they've got the fundamentals and the basic safety down, if, you know, I'm not going to push anyone to use anything they're not comfortable with, but if they want to try it, we'll load one up and let it go. Because, you know, you look at the PR around an AR-15 and what
Right.
people say about it. Oh, it's an AR. It's this big, bad, scary. Yeah. And then they get done with it. And again, her little 5'2", how many every year old, I'm not going to say mommy, is out there playing with it. And it's like, that was fun. I'm like, yeah, that's that big, bad, scary gun. But the media would demonize it all day long. But
She's 69.
okay. I mean, she can
And
put
she's
it
watching. So yes, Mama, I did call you out.
Okay. I would say she could call me out in the comments on one channel or another. I'm sort of watching the comments. We are live on both YouTube and Rumble right now. Wow, I'm flipping through the stories, and there's some interesting. So now,
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. She's 70. She just turned 70 last May.
okay. And yeah, I know you seem to enjoy yourself out on the range that day, and she seemed to enjoy herself out on the range that day. And I just brought, you know, a couple of
She
9mm
enjoyed herself
handguns.
so much that I think it was even after just that one trip that when we had gone with you, that she actually went out and bought her pistol. She ended up getting the Smith & Wesson Shield Easy, which she had used that day, and realized that that was something that, you know, like I said, with her arthritis in her hands, and she's had surgery for carpal tunnel and trigger finger, and she's got all kind of problems with her hands. She's like me. She worked a desk job for, you know, her whole working life. And so she had the carpal tunnel with the typing and stuff. And now she does embroidery. So she's constantly using her hands. So she needed something that was going to be, you know, easy for her to rack, easy for her to hold, you know, something that wasn't going to be too cumbersome. And I felt like she was really impressed, not just with the gun itself that day, but also with, you know, you kind of having the patience to take her through it for both of us, really, who didn't have a lot of experience with any of it.
Right. And that's where, the people who have been, those of us who have already made it through the minefield can definitely, whether we're formally instructors or not, we can turn around and our knowledge base. Now, I am an instructor, but even if I wasn't, for years, my knowledge base of basic safety, basic handling, the 4 rules, how to load it, we can all do that to help people get into the 2A community. Because I'm going to call you out a little bit. So you called her out. You're in your 40 something or others. And here it is, well, gee, maybe this is, a step to take, a leap of faith sort of. It's like, okay, you're 40. We can teach an old mouse new tricks. Oh, that's it.
I'm 46. That's okay.
Okay. And it's like, okay, just because, you're in your early 40s, it doesn't mean that, you can't learn. You can't go out and do it. And,
Well, I will say we talked about this earlier, but you did take me recently and assisted me with buying my first firearm. And a lot of the reason for that, which I'm fairly certain I would have done it under any circumstance, but Matt and I did separate just before Thanksgiving. It's all very amicable. It's, he's still my best friend. We still hang out, but in the meantime, until if and when, we have some sort of a reconciliation, I'm by myself right now. And, while I lived on my own for years before Matt and I met. I bought my house, I think, when I was like 23, and he and I married when I was like 35. So I lived on my own for a long time, but
like I said, she fed him and he followed her home.
But we live in a much different world now, even than just 10 years ago. And it's like I've heard you say on the show many times, God forbid something happen and seconds count when police are minutes away. What are you going to do? So I felt like I needed to have something for my own protection.
Right. That's understandable. And again, we started doing this well before y'all separated, but my thought again at the onset was, well, first of all, and you can go back and look on one of the shows, I made the comment that, even though you were married, at some point I could see a home invader coming in and him diving under the bed, crying and peeing himself while you cut loose with an AR and said, "Bring it, bitch." I mean, yeah. But the other side of that coin is, first off, your mother's firearm. Nice gun. Wonderful gun. Now, is it something useful for home defense? Maybe for someone who's really, really comfortable and at the point to deal with a 45-70.
Not her rifle, not her pistol.
Right.
Yeah.
The 45-70 lever action.
Yeah, not real practical for home defense.
Well, not real practical, again, given her skill set or your skill set. If somebody had fired those for years and was very comfortable with, the way the lever action works, great. But they've got now the Shield Easy, they've got the Equalizer, they've got some other ones out there. Those are the two that strike me in the Smith family, and y'all know I love my Smith.
Because she bought one and I bought the other.
Right. And it was like, you were all gung-ho to get the Easy, and I was like, try this Equalizer. It's a little bit bigger grip, but still comfortable, still fairly easy to manipulate. But instead of 8, you get 15. And she smiled and said, "Oh, really?" Because we do live in a free state here. Sorry, Bobby. Yeah. My poor dear brother up in Massachusetts. They've got a 10-round mag limit up there. He was
Oh,
asking
wow.
me about firearm recommendations one day, and it was like, well, there's this one, there's this, no, damn it. You know,
Yeah, well, as you know, as I told you last time we went to the range, the 10-round mag for my gun, I don't like it at all because it doesn't give me enough grip. So I'm thankful that we're allowed more.
right. Well, and the other thing is, I think you are the perfect case as well from, you know, some of the manufacturers that market this. Were you looking for something that was comfortable, easy to use, easy to handle, good? You didn't necessarily need it in Tiffany blue or pink zebra print or
Oh
anything
no.
else.
What you don't realize is I'm going to get mine wrapped like that one that I sent you on the show that day.
Yeah. And manufacturers, if you're listening, a gun that is comfortable in her hands, that is, she likes, is easy to use, easy to manipulate, and function with. All the cute little robin's egg, Tiffany, pink, day glow colors or whatever, that's not what people really want. And
No.
also, folks, we didn't have to get her a 38 5-shot revolver. And she actually did shoot one of my revolvers one time. Now, it was a 686 full bore Magnum, but
it hurt.
you didn't like that one. And you also tried my little 380, and you didn't like that one, as I recall.
Now, that one I don't remember, but I remember trying the big revolver. And I didn't, what the part that I didn't like about it, I mean, it's a cool looking gun, don't get me wrong, but the part that I didn't like was whatever the second set of ammo, especially that you put in it.
Yeah. I put in, let her try it with 38 special rounds first. And after she had tried those, I said, now, this is the Magnum rounds.
Yeah, it kicked. It hurt my hand right here.
But as I recall, again, the little 380 pocket rocket I have that you tried also, you didn't like it. It was too small in your hand. You couldn't get a grip on it, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's where, okay, well, this is a cute little 380 that'll be perfect for the wife. Let the wife get what she likes and what's comfortable with. Don't get her something that you think is right. Please, God. Sorry, I'm going to preach that one out all day. She's actually got a good size 9mm that she's very comfortable with. The little pocket rockets are great, but the lack of size and weight of them, you get more felt recoil, number one. And number two, there's not much real estate for her to hold on to mate up with her hands. So,
right.
It's harder to control. Instead,
and
take her out.
Like, if it's a consideration of, the concealed carry aspect of it, I mean, mine would go in it would be probably it's not going to be like a little handbag,
Right.
but it would go in a purse, like a decently sized purse.
Right. Yeah. And that's that Smith equalizer. And again,
right.
I'm partial to Smiths. I love my Shield. I've got a couple of them, and I've been very happy with them over time. But I'm also very big fan of what PSA's got out. They've got their Dagger, their compact, and their new Dagger Micro Compact has just recently come out. Hint, hint. Guess what y'all be seeing a review of soon. Anyway, but
we're gonna have a new toy to play with at the range.
We may well. But yes, PSA has announced they're making a compact version of the full frame Rock. That's that 5.7 we've been shooting. And they're going to have a compact version of that. And they have come out with a micro compact version of the Dagger Compact. The Dagger I have is the compact, which is compact as opposed to, say, a full frame 45.
Now, the Dagger, I think, is the PSA gun that you bought right around Thanksgiving, maybe, that I really liked that one. At one point, I was kind of leaning toward that one as well.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of them. And then there's the Rock, which is the PSA that is the 23+1, the funny looking shells.
Right.
And then there's the Dagger Micro, which is a smaller version of that Dagger, which, if y'all aren't familiar, the Dagger that's compact and the Micro are kind of Glock clones. The Dagger itself is kind of a Glock 17 clone. The compact is about a 19 clone. And I think the Micro compact looks to be about a 43 or 48 clone compared to Glock. I haven't had a chance to play with the Micro compact yet, but they're just hitting the market. I'll put it that way. They advertise them periodically, but they're typically sold out online. So if you can get one, get one. But then we found that Smith equalizer that you liked, and it was really nice because you said the 10-round mag that came flush, a little bit small, but
it was too short. It was like my pinky didn't have anywhere to go when I was holding it.
Mm-hmm. So the 13 or 15 round mag were kind of nice.
Yeah.
And again, thus we live in a free state. So now, moving on from, okay, we've gone to the range, at the outdoor range. Then we had the time, I know you and I rode up and then we met your mom there. No, I think I rode up when we met I met you and your mom at the indoor range, and I brought a bunch of stuff with me.
Right.
And she's like, hey, look, I got a gun. And you thought she had gone to the range with it. And she's like, no, this is the first time. I'm like,
yeah, I did. And it turned out she had never shot it.
Mm-hmm. And so she took it out and we broke it in.
Right. And that's to this day, that's probably the only time she's shot it. So we need to get her to go.
No, I think she's done one more time with us after that.
Did she? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I thought that was the last time. But anyway.
I think so.
She hasn't used it much. Definitely not as, she hasn't been out as often as I have.
Right.
Even now.
Yeah, I drag Minnie out a lot. I know her work schedule.
It still hasn't been that much. I mean, we've gotten to the point where it's been about once a week.
Yeah. And the thing is, I can sit there and I know her work schedule a lot of times. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing when you get off? And she can pretty much keep up with my work schedule too. So it is what it is. But yeah, we have a local range we can go to, which is really nice. One of my favorite places to go. But we can't play long guns there.
But that's the one that does Free Ladies Day on Wednesdays?
That's the one that's Free Ladies Day on Wednesdays. And I'm always free because I'm a gold member there. Right. So it's like we can go up there and it's like, okay. Yeah. But we do that. And then the other one further up, they do Ladies Day on Wednesdays also, but I have to pay there, but it's not that much, because I get EMS discount.
Okay. Is that the one near my mom's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been to 4 ranges so far. You never know. We may hit the 5th one of these days.
We have.
Yeah.
The first outdoor range, and then the one here in Simpsonville,
mm-hmm.
the one out near my mom's house, and then PSA,
mm-hmm.
where I had to buy socks.
Yeah. There's one.
Know the rules for your range before you go.
Yeah. And they have the rules to try to sort of keep people safe, and some ranges have different views on Crocs than others, and some people wear Crocs sans socks to the range and had to buy socks.
Well, yeah, because I I had broken a toe doing some cleaning like the week before or something, and my foot was swelling. And so, because normally I would just put on sneakers, but no, I was wearing Crocs that day. So they said for their rules, and that's all. PSA is the only place I think we've run into that, but for their rules, Crocs are considered like an open toe, and that's not allowed. You have to wear socks.
Right.
So, and
Then
that's fine.
again,
I respect that. That's
right.
that's the rule.
And the thing is, they're doing it because of a safety thing that they, every
Right.
one of the ranges, because you've been to a bunch of them, most of the time they're pretty straightforward. And it's like I tell people all the time, they've got a set of rules that they run their business by. And 9 times out of 10, they're safety, safety, safety. They want people to have a good, safe experience. They don't want it to be a nightmare. They don't want, reckless idiots ruining everyone else's range day. But
I think now, having been to several different ranges, now the outdoor range, I don't know that there was even anybody there when we
they
went.
do random checks.
Okay. But at least for the 3 indoor ranges, I think probably the number one rule to know is don't come walking in there with a gun in your hand. It's got to be holstered or in a bag. They are not going to be happy if you walk in carrying it.
And that's a general truth to any gun store.
I had a Sully, so I never made that mistake.
Right. And even more lucky, the fact that you didn't have a gun to carry in there. But think of it. I don't care whether it's a gun range or not. I mean, let's say you're going into, I don't know, the local big box sporting goods store. Let's say you're going into Dick's to buy a holster. And then again, I don't shop there because, well, they're Dick's. But if I was going to Academy to buy a holster, walking in with a gun in your hand is just not a way to get off on a good footing with them. They respectfully request it's in the holster in a case,
Right.
And the thing is, if they do that to you, don't take it personally. In fact, it was really funny. I went up to PSA one time to get some parts for an AR. Now, I was getting parts for an AR, and I deliberately wanted to bring it up there so they could see what it was. But based on the nature of the parts, it couldn't be fully assembled at that time because of requirements and NFA items and things like that. So I went up there, had part of it disassembled, broken down in a case. The other part was left here at the house. Well, I went up there and I sat on the counter and I told him, I said, well, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to get a, brace to put on this as it's an AR pistol frame. I want to get the brace to put on it, and that would be legit and legal, wonderful. But had I had the upper on it at the time, the old item there was a stock, so it would have been an SBR. So I was putting a shorter upper on it, so I didn't want to have a stock attached to it because that's an NFA item. That's illegal. So I took that off, said, okay, I'll leave this here. Once I put the brace on it, then I'm legal to attach that to it. But not until, because I was cutting down an AR. When I, as an instructor who's been up there a bunch of times and bought a bunch of stuff from them, the minute I started unzipping the case, they said, excuse me, do you mind if we do that? So that's fine. And he said, no offense, just want to make sure nothing's loaded or anything. I said, oh, I promise you, it's very safe. And he opens it, he goes, it's only part of a gun. I said, I thought it was safe. But again, had I had it all put together, it would have been an SBR until I put the brace on it, and that would have made it approved.
SBR being short
barreled rifle. Yeah.
Yes, because I have someone who taught me that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the earliest videos I started doing was trying to explain pistol braces and the pistol brace saga. Why something that's been okay to own for 10 years, the government now says is bad. And fortunately, we're doing well with that battle in court.
Because people who aren't educated and don't know any better are the ones making the laws.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, this is where it gets
Guns
really
bad.
interesting. Well, it's
Guns
the
evil.
equivalent of somebody who had never driven or operated a vehicle in their life writing traffic laws. It's the, honestly, now, Mel, have you ever flown a plane?
Nope.
Okay. So you should be writing the laws of what pilots have to go through and what their requirements are, right?
Of course, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. Well, Mel said I'm multi-engine rated. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, I know a little bit about aviation, and I would not be arrogant enough to think that I'm even need to go down that road. And, when you want to talk about how idiotic some of it really is, I've just got one observation.
Who in God's name needs a weapon with 100 rounds in a chamber?
Oh, I love it.
But I mean, come on, you put a brace on a pistol and it becomes a gun and you get a bigger caliber. And what? Somebody get Brandon before he hurts himself. Anyway, but no, so you've been 4 different ranges, and again, without calling them out by name, everyone been pretty helpful, even,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely an advantage showing up there with you, especially the ones where they know you, because, obviously being an instructor, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this guy again. But I feel like if you had not taken me the first time, I probably, especially as a female without much or really any real gun experience, it's probably not something I would have done on my own. But now that I have been, I see that there's really no reason for that. It's you're not walking into somewhere where it's like a boys club. I think most of the employees have been male, but they've all been very very easy to work with. Not, they don't talk down to you at all. They don't, they're very helpful. And there's, a lot of times when we go out on the range shooting, there's other women there. So, it's not a situation where you're walking in as, the little female into the boys club. It's really kind of an open community.
And I will say
everybody's there to learn and have fun.
There are a lot of ranges that have excellent female instructors. I mean, my friend Karen, I think you might have met her down here at one of the football games. But now,
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I know of female instructors in this area. There are some, but I think if you went in there, even if you don't necessarily find a female instructor, if you do get someone there who's being a jerk, take your money and spend it somewhere else. And I will say that if anyone who's listening, if they're looking for an instructor contact or an instructor recommendation, reach out to me, drop me an email. I can throw the email up there. I can say this. I can't vouch personally for these individuals, but I know a lot of instructors all over the place. And, generally, there's going to be jerks. 10% of society are jerks. 10 to 15%. Nowadays, maybe pushing a little bit higher. But even if we say 20% of society are jerks, that's 20% of the waitresses you see, 20% of the bar staff you see, 20% of the firearms instructors you see, 20% of the medical professionals you interact with. It's just a certain, amount of human beings are jerks. So if someone's a jerk, okay, you found that one, there'll be someone else who's not. Law of averages, they don't survive in this business if they are,
But I mean, I have to say, at least in my limited experience so far going to these various ranges, I've never run into anybody like that. Anybody who's got like a misogynistic attitude or, even aside from male, female, but just a, haughty or superior attitude. We've not seen that at all. Those guys out there, especially the one that we go to here in Simpsonville, that's on Wednesday nights when we can get out there. They're really friendly and very helpful. I know that I've been present while you've had conversations with them about like replacing parts and whatever the subject is, and they're very knowledgeable and very helpful.
Yeah. And I was I think it was on the Rock that I decided to upgrade the sights on it because it had the bare post minimum and I wanted to go with the tritium sights, and it's like, yep, here's this, and if you buy it here, we'll do it for you for this much. Or I was like, okay, I can do it myself, But I went ahead and did that. And again, most of them. Now you've been up to PSA with me. You've been to the range with me. You haven't been up there when I'm like looking for AR parts and stuff for a build. Yeah. But again, when I've been up there, they're in a business, and you approach them nicely, they're good. And then we went to, it was even a different range besides either of those two, where she ended up picking up her first toy, and it just so happened the gentleman she was buying it from was someone I knew from EMS from 15 years ago. But we got talking and everything else.
Bo,
and
was that his name?
Yeah,
I think Bo. Super nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm. And he works there, and he's also involved in law enforcement. And he knew me and called me by name a couple times. And I'm like, I know the face, but. And then when he finally told me, I was like, oh, damn, that's 15 years ago. No wonder I couldn't put a name to it. But so we started chatting back and forth. But he was super helpful. And I know when we've been up there before a couple times, I know they've got a lot of female instructors up there because I've seen females up there frequently.
Okay.
And I know
it seems like there's always one or two females when we're shooting.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed any female staff, but it could just be.
No, I mean females working there. I know they've got female instructors up there. But, and again, I will say this also, as far as the learner's curve on this stuff, if you don't want to do it in person, or you're nervous, or you want to go through the fundamentals, we do the same group of us, I do a Guns 101 class. I can do it online, virtually. Now, we can't really go shooting virtually, but I'll go through top to bottom of our Intro to Firearms class, and even send you the PDF version of the workbook, because what? You know what? We need to learn. And again, if you learn and you say, hey, I decide that's not for me, let's say you decide, hey, I tried that motorcycle thing and it's just not for me. Okay, fine. You at least know. But you never know. You may like it.
And I think, and I told you this on one of your streams, you had an instructor, and I forget exactly what the question was that he asked, but it was something along the lines of like, what is like the one piece of advice, or what is the one safety rule, or something along those lines. But anyway, for me, one of the most empowering things that I learned is actually one of the most simple, and it's just learning how to clear a gun. Because just knowing that I can, somebody can hand me a gun and I can safely handle it. I don't have to be like, oh my gosh, scary gun.
Right.
I know how to pick it up and make sure it's not loaded and look at it and whatever. But for me, that was one of the most empowering things because kind of before that, not knowing any of that or any of the safety rules or anything like that, it was like I'm not going to touch it without somebody telling me or somebody letting me know it's okay. But now I don't have to feel that way. I can just handle it, clear it, it's safe,
right?
Ever.
Now I was gonna say, do you want to share that Christmas story you told me? Because I found that funny. I loved that.
Oh, from this past Christmas?
Yes.
Okay, so we had Christmas dinner at my sister's house this past year, and my sister has this big kitchen table, tons of chairs around it, and my first cousin, her fiance, big hunter, big old country boy. We love him. He's wonderful. And I don't remember even how the subject came up, but somehow we started talking about guns. And I told them that I was probably going to very shortly be purchasing one, and that I had gone out to the range several times and, had been learning how to shoot, and that I was getting to the point where I was probably going to be buying one very soon. And so Abby, my cousin, looks at Zach, her fiance, and says, "Go out to the car and get my gun and bring it to Melanie's. Let her see if she can rack it." Well, it turned out it was the Smith & Wesson Easy Shield Easy.
Well, I think that's funny. Now we'll hold that thought for a minute. Boy, go get my gun out of the car. You notice this, yeah. Go get my gun.
Like I said, this is my mom's side of the family. We came from, strong females and
yeah.
My cousin Abby, she's a little spitfire. I'll have to bring her to the range with us one day. You would love her to death. Cool. She's great. But yeah, so she told him, said, "Go out to the car and get my gun and bring it to me and let her see if she can rack it." So he does. And, as proper etiquette, it didn't have a magazine in it. He opened it up, handed it to me. And my other cousin across the room, well, two other cousins, Abby's younger brother, and then one of our other first cousins, who both of whom tend to lean a little more toward the liberal side, although I don't know if they've ever done anything with firearms. I really don't know. But start just losing their minds because he's handing me a gun. And and I'm just looking at it, I pick it up and I rack it, and cousin Zach on the other side is like, oh my God. And then Logan, Abby's younger brother, who's sitting on the bench on the other side of the table, is like, look at her, she's pointing it everywhere. And I'm like, he handed it to me with no magazine, and it's open. I can see there's not anything in the barrel. Like, what are you freaking out about? Like, chill out. And he's like, but you're waving it everywhere. I'm like, actually, I'm not. I'm pointing it at the floor because even though I know it's unloaded, I'm not going to point it at anyone, but I pointed it at the floor and I racked it. And
so
it was just really funny because you've got these two guys, and like I'm handling an empty gun, and you've got these two guys on either side of the room that are just losing their minds. And I'm like, what is your deal?
You need to bring them to class with us one of these days.
Yeah, I probably should.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is knowledge overcomes that reaction. And I'm not necessarily laughing at their reaction, although I find it, kind of amusing. I find this amusing on several levels, actually. First off, you ain't having a South Carolina Christmas unless one person brings a gun. We, pass around a gun at the table, yeah. But on the other side of the coin, this is, a year ago, you would have been that person.
Quite possibly, yeah. Well, I doubt that I would have reacted that way, just because even though, I did not have any experience at the time with firearms. I mean, I know, like I said, my cousin's fiance is a big old country boy hunter. I wouldn't have cared if he brought a gun in. I'd have been like, whatever, he knows what he's doing.
It's like, I'm actually safer around you than I am around Alec Baldwin on a movie set.
True story.
But again, when you get to the point of, they're out there, it's a mechanical device. You learn the rules. At least,
Oh, and then the other part of that story is that later on, after most of the extended family had left, we're sitting at the table, and my brother-in-law went and got his gun out of the bedroom and brought it out for me to look at his. And my sister, bless her heart, who actually owns a firearm, was getting nervous. And I don't know. It was just this whole thing. But it was like, okay, I realize it's Christmas Day. We've got firearms out on the table, but like, it's all good. Everybody's okay.
Sounds like my kind of Christmas, personally. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a Southern family Christmas.
And the funny thing is, now my family, when I first got involved years and years ago in law enforcement, this is no joke. I went out to my mom's house. I'd worked an overnight shift and went out towards my mom's house. And quite frankly, I had ditched my uniform shirt and ditched my vest and just thrown on like a jacket over, So I just had a t-shirt on with a jacket underneath it. I wanted to get the vest off and let myself air out a little bit because, they're hot. And, okay. So I did that. Well, I walk in the house and I've still got my full duty rig on. And there's a firearm in my holster. And my mother's like, why'd you have to bring that in my house? Bring what? That damn gun. It's fine, Mother. It just sits there. What if it goes off? It's not going to. It's been hanging out there 14 hours tonight. It hung out there 12 hours last night. It's in
the guns she had the problem with, not like, cuffs, billy stick, or whatever else might have been on your belt.
It's in a level 3 retention holster. And, the cuffs, the pepper spray, the magazines. No, we don't worry about any of that. But no. It just sits there, Mother. It just sits there. It's okay. It's comfortable. It's had a long night.
Themselves. Alec Baldwin.
Right. Typically keep the booger hook off the bag. Anyway, but the thing is, now even with that rule being said, I love how you mentioned, okay, he removed the magazine, handed it to you open, you checked it, showed it clear, and at that point, you're pointing it somewhere. I mean, it's kind of bad etiquette to aim it at old Uncle William right in his face, but on the other side, well, she's waving it around everywhere. If you've cleared it, and both of you have cleared it, you passed the first Baldwin rule.
Yeah, and the point was I was pointing it at the floor, but okay, whatever.
Well, a couple of things I want to mention before we get into a story here. You want to throw this up real quickly. For those people who are not familiar, while we've got John here, we also have our Twitter feed, which typically is where I announce shows, various things as I'm putting them out. We have the Facebook feed, which I again try to announce things on, at least when we're doing, something. We have a locals feed. Now, if you're not familiar with locals, it is sort of the social media side of Rumble. And locals is really cool. Thegunclub.locals.com. It is set up. It is 100% free to join, to look at stuff on there. Eventually, at some point, we may add a paid tier above the free side. Not that we're going to start charging everybody or do anything like that. But the nice thing is I can post a lot more information in there. Right now, the pictures from the Alec Baldwin shooting, I put them in there individually, showing his finger someplace it was not supposed to be. I took the 551-page Sheriff's Department investigation. If you want to read through all the interviews, I posted that in there as a PDF so people can look at it. I love doing the content on here, doing the video on here, but to post sources and to post stuff, you can get it all in locals. Beyond that, of course, our Rumble library has all of our videos in there. I love keeping the videos in there, but as far as for documents or things like that, or articles, any written materials, printed materials, I can put that all into locals for us. And it's out there. So, I want to tell everyone that I've been posting a lot more in locals. Also posting some firearms humor in locals from time to time. Imagine that. Because we all know my sense of humor. Another announcement to make. I know, a few of y'all have found it rather amusing on my Friday night rants. And so chances are there will be a Friday night rant tomorrow night. I'll post it out on Twitter once I figure out what time I'm going to do it. But the Friday night drunken rants, they seem to be very popular. So it is what it is. Now, let's get into our stories tonight. I got a couple stories for you. First off, this one's kind of interesting. We have an incident report out of Joliet, Illinois. Now, this one actually was sent to me or brought to my attention by a young lady named Sally. She runs a channel called Talk with Sally. She's active on Rumble, I think on YouTube as well. She also does a lot of evening Twitch streaming of classic movies. She's kind of a trip and a lot of fun. So from that standpoint, give her a follow if you're interested. You check her out on her Twitch streams, classic movies, usually about 10, 11 o'clock at night. But it's kind of fun to have a watch party on Twitch. But she brought this to my attention. That happened last weekend. She said, "Did you hear about this? There was a shooting at an apartment complex Sunday, January 21st in the afternoon. PD responds out to the apartment complex, and they see one person who's been shot in the head. He was transported to the hospital and died. They did see a vehicle on the video. They traced that to a local residence. They also found out about the same time they're tracing all this that there was a second shooting with a vehicle mating the same description that was non-fatal. It's a little red Toyota. So they finally get the video enhanced enough to get a tag. They go to the residence to follow up on the shooting. Now, there's two residences on the same street. They're across from each other. The suspect is known to live at one of them, but again, with family living right across the street, apparently it was sort of the family went back and forth a lot, what I'm gathering. Well, police set up surveillance on the houses, sit on them for a few hours, little by little, nothing. No sign of anyone coming or going, no sign of the red car. So they finally go over to the first house and they say, okay, let's knock on the door, see what we can find. Well, no answer at the first residence. They go back across the street and they find blood and bullet holes on the door of this second residence directly across the street. Well, this causes them to force entry into the house and they find two dead bodies in there who have been shot. this point, they run back across the street and force entry to the first house, find 5 bodies, individuals ranging from 14 to 47. The suspect, by the way, is 23. The 47-year-old is his mother, and the 14-year-old and the 16-year-old were his younger sisters. His mother, his brothers, sisters, younger sisters, yeah, and his aunt and uncle. 7 people. And they're pretty sure that this whole mess, that these 2 houses took place prior to the random incidents that had happened. And the people in the beginning from the random incidents, no one knew this guy. There's no connection they can find. One is, a Nigerian immigrant who's only been in the country like 3 years. But, unfortunately, he lost his life on that one. So this became a huge manhunt last weekend. And this is when Sally was like, have you heard about this? No. Kind of blew my mind. So I followed it a little bit. Now, this was described by the chief of police of Joliet, Illinois, as the most heinous scene he has ever worked. It was described as a family massacre, wholesale family massacre. And yet has barely gotten any play in the news media. Well, I guess there wasn't an AR-15 involved. And let's see, I guess there was no pistol brace involved. And I guess magazine capacity didn't come into it. Let's see, was the guy white supremacist? No. Did the guy have a MAGA hat on or something? No. Oh, well, it doesn't fit our narrative. 7 family members and 1 stranger dead, but the media ignores it. Had this fit their narrative, would they have been playing this story up? You bet your ass they would have. Had this fit their pre-approved criteria, would this have been front page? Yeah. Now, this gets continued on to the point. At this point, the U.S. Marshals are involved, and you may think, well, this is just a Joliet story. Monday evening, the vehicle was located on I-35 in Texas, going south. He had made it over 1,200 miles away. Law enforcement at that time attempted to stop the vehicle. They have a pursuit. The suspect ends up wrecking the vehicle, or pulling into a gas station and abandoning the vehicle on foot, armed with a handgun. And shortly thereafter, he gave up, literally, and revoked his own birth certificate. Here we have, again, went from all the way from Illinois to Texas, 1,200 miles across the country, and we're barely hearing about it in mainstream media. Immediately it becomes, well, we have a gun problem. Well, let's look at the gun problem for a second. This is the suspect history. He was first charged with robbery. They went back in 2019. He was charged later with aggravated discharge of a weapon back in January of 2023, at which point he shot a .380 at another vehicle during a car chase in Illinois. He was out on bond for that shooting and has been out on bond awaiting trial since February of 23. He was also, while he was in jail, charged with battery as well as damage to governmental property. Based on that charge, I'm guessing the damage to government property was probably, trying to kick out the window of a patrol car or beat on a jail door or something. But he was actually due back in court February 1st of 2024. Now, if we look at this, in January of 2023, he was shooting out the window of a car at some random passerby. He got out on bond, and it took, until January of this year for something to happen. Now, we don't know what else could have happened. Was this man, should he have had a gun? No. Did he buy it legally? Couldn't have. Was he a legal firearms owner? No. We worry about gun control. Once again, we need criminal control. This is among the 25% of people who have firearms who shouldn't. We're talking the 14 and 15-year-olds who did the Christmas Eve shooting, if you recall that. We're talking, again, previously violent felons, people who were out on bond for misusing a firearm, shooting out a window of a moving car. It's not a gun control problem. We've got plenty of gun laws. They're not being enforced. I'm going to put this out there. I don't know, and it's too early to tell whether anyone in his family knew he had the gun or not. Law of averages says with that many people in the house, somebody probably knew he had something. But if one of those family members had known he had it and called and been able to get law enforcement on him, how different would that family be today? Not trying to be an asshole here, folks, but some people don't need guns. And this one, I don't think he needed a gun. Just my opinion.
Well, and he was charged with shooting at somebody's car, which is basically attempted murder, a year ago.
Yeah.
And wasn't due back in court until February 1st, and they just let him walk free?
He was out on bond. He originally was... What?
But it's the gun's fault.
Yeah, we're going to blame the gun. There is now... there are people literally who are out on bond waiting criminal trial for felony charges for a year or more. The court's so backed up. So, that terrifying. Day that he opened fire with a .380 at a passing or out of a window of a car at another car during a road rage chase. Okay. But while he was out on bond, he was prohibited possessor. He's got previous robbery charges, prohibited possessor. And
this is why those of us who are law-abiding citizens need to have something for protection, because you just don't know. Obviously the court system is not taking care of the problem.
Right. And the incident on Christmas Eve where the kids had 2 years of slaps on the wrist and probation, these things are not the guns. We hear about it when it's the big bad end point of the fatality. But truth be told, this has been coming for 2 years. It'll make the news after enough bodies are stacked up. This person's been on this road to do this. And when you hear the police chief, and I watched his press conference, and he said it's the most heinous thing he's ever seen in that little town.
So sad.
And they're probably, from what he said, some of the people from his agency who went into those houses and had to document and process it, there's like sending them to counseling right now over the way these people were done. And it's like his 14 and 16-year-old kid sister. He's 23.
And he drove 1,200 miles in a 24-hour period.
Yes.
To me, there has to be some kind of drug involvement there.
That's a question. The original shooting was Sunday at 4:30. They're saying that the family was likely wiped out before then. They say robbery wasn't a motive. The guy who he shot and killed, the Nigerian immigrant who got shot in the head for his welcome to America, has been here 3 years. Thank you, come again, I guess. But it wasn't robbery. It was random. And then he drives basically 1,213 miles, I think, from one city to the other. So we know he made it that distance. We don't know how many actual miles he drove. But if he meandered his way down there, and again, maybe drugs. And unfortunately, we don't know. The gentleman does have a 3-year-old child who was fortunately not involved and not in the area that this happened at. So he's fine. Child's fine. Child's whole family is wiped out. Dad's gone. Grandma's gone. The 2 teenage aunties are gone. I mean, and it's, I swear to this day, it's not a gun problem. It's a societal problem.
Yeah, what was this guy doing out on the streets?
Well, not only that, but what was he doing? I get the fact, okay, he's innocent until proven guilty, fine, come out on bond. But I've said many, many, many times, I would love to see where, okay, if so-and-so is either on bond, prohibited possessor, or previously convicted felon, they talk about wanting to red flag gun owners who haven't done anything. How about the ones who have guns who have done something, who have multiple convictions? How about we put the 1-800 number out there for them? Why do we have the ATF worrying about law-abiding gun owners who have like pistol braces when, you've got this running around on the street?
Right.
And I don't know what set him off. I don't know what happened. I mean, I think it'll be hard to find out a lot because, well, everyone in the house is dead. There's not a lot of witnesses. That's the, unless someone figures something out forensically. So, if that wasn't enough of a black pill, I have a little bit of a palate cleanser here for you. And this one is from right here in beautiful, scenic Greenville, South Carolina. Are you ready?
Sure.
Let's see here. Our good guy with a gun, or good gal with a gun. This one came from courtesy of Fox, Carolina. A man was arrested after having a fight with a girlfriend where she shot him in self-defense, according to the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. According to the Sheriff's Office, deputies were called to a scene in the Durango Road and Gear Highway area in reference to a domestic violence incident early Saturday morning. Deputies were told the suspect had left the house, which was damaged from the fight, and had been injured from the shooting. They later found the 48-year-old male suspect. He's been charged with domestic violence, second degree, and malicious damage. And he also was transported to the hospital for a minor gunshot wound. I guess she decided that he wasn't going to hit her anymore.
Good for her.
And this one just to prove that it's not just a gun problem, it's a societal sickness problem. This one out of Cleveland County, Oklahoma. A youth baseball coach was arrested on January 13th after he was allegedly found doing a bad thing to a child at Southwest Oklahoma City. This 39-year-old male got into a fight on January 13th and ended up by getting a ride home from the bar with a woman who he lived with. Later that night, there was a young lady asleep in another room of the house at the time. The woman awoke to find him in her room doing bad things. At that point is when they found, she called the police, and when they arrived, they found the woman holding him at gunpoint. Police reportedly interviewed the young girl who said that this wasn't the first time. She told the police that he had done this previously, and it was even found to have happened on her birthday at one time. Yeah. Several parents whose children were coached by Shepard reacted to the news, said he was a well-known youth baseball coach for the Oklahoma ball team. He's currently in charges in Cleveland County Jail facing lewd molestation, R-word by instrumentation, 3 charges of R-word first-degree misdemeanor for a minor under 15, as well as a pattern of criminal offenses and another lewd molestation felony. He's waiting a bond of close to $1 million. But yeah, Mama Bear held him at gunpoint.
Way to go, Mama Bear.
And I will say this, the general chat on the post, not in our chat, but on the post, there have been several like, and why did she even not pull the trigger? You know, let's see. Taxpayer money shouldn't be wasted on this. Why didn't she pull the trigger? Let's see. Matthew 18:6. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and be drowned in the depth of the sea. Let's see. Yeah. R.I.P. to him in prison. Can we get a pack of hungry coyotes, feed them on live TV?
Wow.
Why is he being charged? He shouldn't be breathing. Reasonable bond should be $10 million. Yeah, this quite a few very interesting ideas. Apparently, there's a wood chipper here. There's several other suggestions, about how to fix this problem. But yeah. Now, my thing is, it's awful that it happened, and I feel bad for the child, of course. I mean, that's unimaginable. But at least when push came to shove, Mama Bear was able to, like, address it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
At least she was able to, because, if he's athletic, he's a ball coach, what is she dealing with? She's got a tiger by the tail in the house. So, the equalizer. But yeah, it is what it is. Well, folks, that's all I've got for today. I've enjoyed it. Minnie, I enjoy having you come on and play with us and sort of tell your story.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's like I've said before, she is kind of my superstar pupil right here. So we've got to... What? It's true. The thing is, you got out of your comfort zone a little bit on the front end, but now, you're learning, but you feel a little bit more comfortable with them, hopefully.
I do.
And look at it this way. At least now you have something to be able to defend yourself with. And that way, you can tell him to stop crying after you deal with a bad guy. Anyway. Yes, he'll be hiding behind her, tying up behind her apron strings, whatever. That's the point. All righty. Well, folks, y'all have a wonderful night. I've enjoyed it. We will probably be seeing you, or I will probably be seeing you for the Drunken Rant stream tomorrow night. It'll be a late night, probably 11:30. I'll go on. I've got some really interesting stuff to cover. We may even talk a little bit about the border or Texas or other things. And I've got a couple of real interesting letters to the editor by gun control enthusiasts that we'll get to read over.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.